I will do a short presentation just on who we are and what we do. Then we'll go directly to Excel to explore the demo. In the first section, we'll just build a simple trial balance sheet. We'll take a look at some of our financial reports and of course some other examples just to see the diverse usages of Velixo and its capabilities. So the goal of the presentation today and what I really hope you leave with is how to get the most out of Acumatica from the comfort of Excel. So you will see how to bring all of your data, financials, projects all onto one sheet, how you can slice and dice your reports, and we will also explore how you can push back your data to Acumatica. So a little bit about us first. We were founded not that long ago in 2017 by Gabriel Michaud. He actually worked in Acumatica as a leader and he saw the opportunity to build Velixo as an Excel add-in because for years he just noticed that people just kept going back to Excel for their reporting, their budgeting, and their analysis needs. And a lot of those conversations ended with the same highlight, which is to have more flexibility in terms of reporting. Fast forward a couple of years, we got a few awards from Acumatica, such as Partner of the Year. We also got Innovation Partner, and we've become the #1 app in their marketplace. We have some incredible satisfaction scores by a lot of our clients. You're more than welcome to go on G2 and just read them for yourself. So what is it that we're trying to do? So when it comes to manual spreadsheets, there are a few problems that tend to arise. Mainly the process, it requires you to export your data onto Excel, then manually re-enter any changes that you made back to Acumatica. Now, the second that you are done exporting your data to Excel, it is already outdated. Internally, we have just like a funny saying that we say, we call it copy and waste. We just find that it resonates with a lot of our clients, and this is one of the things that we are trying to resolve. So this is where Velixo comes in and can help with those challenges. So first things first, we offer a real-time reporting experience, no data warehouses. It's also bidirectional, so you can pull and push to Acumatica. And when I say push, I mean you can write back lines of data for scenarios like budgeting, forecasting, automation of business processes, to the general ledger, project management, or any other module that you might be thinking of, without needing to manually enter anything. Also, the beauty of it is that Velixo is an Excel add-in, so you can install it right there. I will show you actually in a couple of minutes. You can also benefit from the entire Microsoft 365 ecosystem for further collaboration and automation. A question you might be asking yourself is, well, what about the learning curve? Velixo is fully self-service, and the highlight is you really don't need to be a programmer to use Velixo. It's just based on how comfortable you are with Excel. You also have access to samples and templates to help you get started, and so you can get up and running in no time. So in conclusion, you will be able to save time and money and of course increase your efficiency. So let's get started. I'm going to remove this PowerPoint right now and just open Excel. So before I can get into it, I'm just going to show you how you can download Velixo because it's pretty straightforward. But essentially, if you take a look here at our home page, our home tab, almost all the way to the end on the right, you'll notice we have our add-in section. You can simply search up Velixo and then download following the procedure. Or if it's not present over there, it's just going to be in your File tab. It should be called something like Get Add-ins, but whichever method you decide to do or whichever method that you have, you'll end up with the exact same result, which is in your Home tab all the way on the right, you'll have the Velixo VX button. And of course, a new tab called Velixo NX with a ribbon of all of the new functionalities that you now have access to. Essentially, we're going to take a look at our connection manager. This helps you manage the connections that you have to Acumatica, whether it's one connection or multiple. Drill down allows you to click on any cell and look at the source transactions. This is going to be really interesting. Of course, we have our distribution lists. This allows you to create a template, and essentially, if you are using Outlook, it allows you to send one or multiple sheets to someone, or even just save a copy onto your desktop. And of course, if you are not using Outlook, we have other methods we'll explore also shortly. And then we have some write back scenarios to push back lines of data to Acumatica, some tools which are just helpful buttons that have been put there in the ribbon just for the sake of simplicity. And my favorite part is our help section over here because that just means if you need any assistance, any support, information, you need to download some templates, or maybe you've been using Velixo for a while, you think an idea would be interesting to have, you can just click on it over here, right there from your Excel sheet. You don't need to go back on your browser, search up Velixo, and do the whole process. It's going to be found right there. We'll actually click on Download Report Templates in just the second part of this demo. So if you recall in the beginning, I said in the first part, I'm going to build a trial balance sheet. Before I do that, I'm just going to click on my connection manager to ensure I am connected to Acumatica. You'll notice that I am, you can see it here with the green check, but if I didn't have a connection, I will just click on plus and follow the instructions. The first one is just my ERP, which is Acumatica in that case. And then the name over here. This is something that you will use in your formulas. So I always recommend something short and simple, whether it's an abbreviation of your company's name, your tenant's name, anything that will help you remember it and not make it too much of a hassle. If you have single sign-on, you're more than welcome to use it, or just simply enter username and password. But everything else that you will need over here, such as the URL, the tenant, and the credentials, this can be found right from your Acumatica login page. So it's the same URL we have over here, and of course the same tenant and the credentials. So just a small parenthesis, since we are using the same username and password, this also ensures the same levels of privacy and authorizations are being transferred and copied. What I mean by that is, let's say for example, I'm an employee who cannot view payroll information in Acumatica. I don't have those authorizations. I also won't be able to see it in Excel. It will just show as some error message, but I won't be able to do it or make changes that I have not been authorized to do to begin with. Another thing I wanted to mention, it's really important to know, Velixo does not store any of your data. So even if you choose remember credentials, you can rest assured we are not storing it. Instead, it's just saved in an encrypted area on your computer, but Velixo will never store your data. So let's click on cancel in that case. And you'll notice here we can add multiple connections. So if you have multiple companies, multiple tenants, you can really consolidate data that's coming from all of those different sources. So now that we ensured we are connected, I'm just going to close my panel and get started with the trial balance. So I'm going to need my account codes over here, their name, and the balance. For the account codes, since I'm pulling everything, I'm just going to click on the button over here that's called Insert Chart of Accounts. This essentially is a formula that's just been embedded onto one button to make things simpler. Once I choose my connection, in that case it's straightforward, I just have one. I can click on Insert, and there we have it. All of our account codes have been inserted over here. And you'll notice if I look at cell A10, essentially what the button did is that it added this formula, expand account range. This is one of the many Velixo formulas you now have access to. Now let's move on to writing our account name. Now you can either click on Insert function over here, scroll down to find the Velixo and X functions, look up account name, click on OK, and follow the instructions. Or there's another method where you can literally just type on the cell. We'll use it for the balance, but in that case, let's just stick to this box over here. We just need to put our connection name and the account code. It's pretty straightforward, but if I wasn't sure what they're asking of me, I can always click on Help on this function. And for every single function that we have, we also have an article on our website that tells you which parameters are required, which ones are optional. It gives you a description. It even gives you some examples, so you always ensure that your formulas are the most accurate and you're using them correctly. So let's go back here and write our connection name and our account codes, which are over here. Hit enter, and there we have it. Now you'll notice that every single time I go on my formula and hit enter, and this is something that I'll repeat frequently, but every time a formula is running or we're refreshing a sheet, there's going to be a green circle that's going to pop in, so you can watch out for it. Essentially, all that means is that we are in sync with Acumatica and bringing you the most up-to-date data. What I mean by that is, let's say I change one of the account names over here. I want it to be reflected right away. I can either click on enter so the formula runs again, or I can just click on refresh whether it's the current sheet, the entire workbook, whichever you prefer. I usually recommend current sheet if you have a little bit of a heavier workbook, but it shouldn't take too long to refresh everything. So moving on to our account balance. In that case, we are going to write the formula directly in the cell, but I just need to take one step backwards and actually define a few parameters. Let's say we want our ledger, let's define it as actual. Let's put a financial period over here. And I'm going to write sub-accounts just so you know we can get more granular than that. But for the sake of simplicity, I won't include it in the formula. It's just so you know you can add more details than just simply the ledger and the financial period. So I'm going to select the cell equal account ending balance in that case. Open the parentheses. You'll see in that case there are a few more arguments. So if you are not sure what they're asking of you, very similarly, you can just click on the formula itself and it's going to open another help page that's going to tell you which parameters are optional, which ones are required, and of course, my favorite part, which are the examples, so you actually see it in action before you use the formula. So let's go back here, write our connection name, which is demo, my ledger, which is right over here. I'm going to freeze it just so it doesn't move. We did not define any account class. Of course, we have our account codes over here. We're also freezing it. No sub-accounts or branches, but we can. And of course, our sub-accounts. Our financial period. Oh, sorry. Seems like there's, yes, there we have it. Now this is pretty straightforward, but sometimes we just need to do some comparisons. So maybe I want to compare my actual to my budget. So I'm just going to change the parameter on C1, hit enter. You'll notice the data has been modified. Or maybe I want to go back to actual, hit enter, and do some comparisons. So I'm going to copy what's in column C and just put it in column D. And let's say compare some financial periods. Now this is where it gets really interesting. I can just calculate the variance doing cell minus cell and apply it to everything. I can also take it one step forward and say, you know what, this is nice, but maybe I don't want all of those account codes. I just want to list some of them, or I just want to group some of them and find that same information, the balance, and calculate the variance. So let's do it over here on A5. I want all the account codes from 10,100 all the way to 15,000. And similarly, I'm going to copy what's in the cells over here because this ensures the formulas are also copied. And I will paste them on C5. This just ensures that the formula that was applied over here is still applied over there. We'll do a similar thing. Let's just paste it one row below. And in that case, we are going to define certain accounts, listing certain accounts. So let's say accounts 10,100 and 15,000. It's very similar. I just put a semicolon instead. Hit enter. And of course, we have our values. And my favorite is the wildcards. So maybe we want all of our accounts starting with 1. Just put a couple of question marks because you don't really want to define the rest. It's literally all of the accounts that start with 1. And then very similarly, we'll just copy and paste it right over here. So this was just a quick and easy way to show you how intuitive and easy it is to use Velixo just to build a very simple trial balance sheet. But I think it would be really interesting at this stage to take a look at the rest of the functions by exploring a more elaborate template or sample, let's say. So I'm going to open over here one of the samples that we have. This is our financial sample pack. These are available on our website along with other samples. I'll show you where to find them in, I would say approximately 5 to 10 minutes, but essentially we'll be clicking on download report templates, which is going to open our website and show you exactly where to find all of those templates. You'll see over here we have a profit and loss, a consolidated version. Of course, we can do trailings. Or maybe you're a bit more visual, you want to do a profit dashboard, cash flow statement. Of course, we have the trial balance. Similarly to the one we just did, is just a little bit more granular. We defined branches, debit and credit, P&L by week, and of course so on and so forth if we're talking more about write-back scenarios, for example. Let's just stop for a second, go back to our first PNL, and I want to click on the plus button over here just to show you what's hidden. You'll notice everything in column B. These are Velixo formulas that have just been, I just wanted to show you that they are part of the template. They've just been hidden for the sake of aesthetics. Also here we have our wildcards. So let's just hide it back and play around with it a little bit. So you'll notice here we have our consolidated PNL, but I can toggle back and forth between different branches. Let's say services east to services west. And you'll notice that green circle I mentioned in the beginning, just coming in for a split second, showing you that it's refreshing with the most accurate and most in sync data with Acumatica. So I put it back to consolidated just so we can explore our next feature, which is drill down. So drill down allows you to take a look to click on a cell and look at the source transactions. So let's say we have an audit, internal or external, or maybe just the manager wants to know why my total expenses was this high over here on D29. So I'm going to select the cell. I just clicked on it, click on drill down. And after giving it just a few seconds, is going to create this new Excel sheet with all of the transactions, and everything that's in column B is in blue because these are hyperlinks connecting you back to Acumatica. So you can go even deeper and say, okay, well, what happened over here for my travel transaction? I can just click on it. It's going to open Acumatica and show me that it was, well, one night at the Hilton. You can always even take it one step further and take a look at the receipt, which should be attached right over there. And there we have it. Now we know it was Thomas. He's the one who went to the Hilton. That's where the travel transaction comes from. And this is just an example to show you how easy it is to go back and forth between Excel/Velixo and Acumatica. So let's go back over here. And in that case, I use the travel transaction. You can use it on any other transaction that you want, or you can click on any other cell and do a drill down where you think it's going to benefit you and it's going to make the most sense. The button right next to drill down called status, this one, whenever I click it, is just going to pop this side panel on the right. You don't need to have it open at all times. It's just going to pop in and tell you which functions are calculating, if there's anything happening in the background, but you don't need to have it open. I usually just close it so we have more space over here to play around with. All right, moving forward, another helpful tool is distribution lists. So if you are using Outlook and want to send, let's say, one or multiple sheets to someone, or maybe you just want to save a copy in your desktop, let's say you want to save a version in your archives, this tool is going to be really interesting. So when I click on plus new list, it's going to essentially generate this template, but I'm going to open one that's been pre-filled just for the sake of this demo. And let's zoom in a bit more. You'll notice over here, we need to select which format we want our sheet to be sent in. So you can choose it to have exactly as it is with all of the formulas, Excel and Velixo. You can choose to remove the Velixo formulas or as a PDF. And blanks just simply means that it's not going to be as an attachment. Instead, it's just showing into your email, but not really attached. So you're really free to use whichever method works best for you. Of course, after you define the file name, which tab, if you are saving a copy, you can just put it over here in the insert folder path. Choose which folder works best for you, who you want to send it to, the subject, the body, any attachments. And really the beauty of distribution lists is that you can run it the way you want. So maybe you want to send those reports in column B to everyone in column E. You don't need to save a copy of the Excel sheets. Open Outlook, put an attachment and write the email, maybe on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. You don't need to do that. Once your template is ready to go, you can just click over here on distribute all, and then everyone will receive those reports. Those reports are actively syncing with Acumatica data. And of course, you can choose the email delivery option. You can have it save to drafts, open drafts, or send immediately. But just rest assured, even if you choose send immediately, it's not going to constantly send the emails whenever there is a change. You would still just need to click on distribute all, and then everyone will receive those documents. Now, let's say you don't have Outlook. Maybe you're using Gmail, you're using Hotmail, or maybe just you don't really want to use this method. we do have other options. So over here, you see we'll have snapshot. When I click on it, snapshot essentially just means you are saving a copy of your workbook or your sheet. So let's say we only want our current sheet. We'll decide if you wanted a copy in our current workbook or to open a new workbook. Let's just say new workbook. And you can choose to remove all of the formulas or just the Velixo formulas. And when you click on snapshot, it's just going to create this new workbook with a new sheet where you can then apply the original method of, saving it, attaching it to an email. But this is also pretty interesting if let's say you want to save a copy that does not include any of the Velixo formulas. For example, you're sending it to someone that doesn't use Velixo. This will be pretty interesting and really cool to use. All right, so now that we took a look a little bit about how we can bring our data onto Excel, how we can play around with it, I think it would be nice to just explore some write-back scenarios. So you notice over here when I click on plus new sheet, we have templates that are prepared for our write-back, or by write-back, I mean pushing back our data to Acumatica. We have ones for general transactions, budget, project forecast. But of course, you can also leverage any of the existing Acumatica import scenarios that we have. This is done with the universal write-back over here. And this is really nice because it allows you to create multiple records in Acumatica from your spreadsheet in just one click or just a few clicks if you need an additional layer of defense. So let's take a look at how some of those templates look. Let's say I click on budget over here. We'll choose a financial year, hit insert. This is what we will have. Or for example, if we want to leverage one of our existing import scenarios, you'll notice over here we have a lot. So you're welcome to use whichever, but just for the example, let's put our stock items over here. And similarly, it's going to be a template that you just need to fill. So let's take a look at two examples that have already been made. This one is for a budget write-back. Essentially, it's the same template. It's just been pre-filled and a little bit more advanced, just so it looks more realistic. But let's say, for example, I don't know, we have our sales revenue over here on C11, and our forecast is at 15% on E11. Maybe we're a bit more optimistic. We're actually aiming for 16%, or let's put 18%. It's not typing. Let's just give it a second. There we go. Hit enter. Hit enter. So once I changed this forecast, you'll notice there were some cells over here that got modified, and my write back status is now as pending, not as line uploaded. So now I have a decision to make. I can either choose to have my release to be immediate. What I mean is the second I click on perform write back, it's going to push back this information to Acumatica, or I can choose to add a layer of defense where when I click on perform write back, it's going to open Acumatica and ask me to confirm everything. For this first example, we're going to keep it simple and just make it automatic. So when I do click on perform write back, you'll notice here it's written write back in progress in my side panel. So we'll just give it a second to write back everything. And then I'll show you where you can find those changes or those updates onto Acumatica. So you'll see write back has been completed, the line has been uploaded. There's nothing else that's needed from me. I'm just going to show you where you can find those changes or those updates, just in case you were interested. I'm going to search up. There we go, release budget. And there we have it. Now in the second example, and I find that some people prefer to have an additional layer of defense, I'm going to take a look at my GL insurance accrual write back. This was actually done because one of our clients came to us. He wanted to simplify one of his methods to calculate, to make this calculation, which essentially is revenue over here times GL rate. But you'll notice over here we only have 5 branches. Imagine you have 15, 20 branches and you need to do this calculation on a monthly basis. This could not only be time consuming, but it's also very error prone. So we find a way that we can just simplify the whole thing. So let's say our GL rate over here on C9 has been modified. I'll change it from 4 and put it on 3. When I hit enter, of course, the total GL insurance and therefore my GL entry has been modified. However, on G11 over here, you'll notice I put the automatically release has been set as no. That means I chose an additional layer of defense. So when I do the same thing and click on perform write back, I will need to open or it's going to open Acumatica for me, and then I can review what is set to be made, and then choose to remove hold if everything is good to go and set to move forward. So I think this is pretty interesting at this stage. I just wanted, now that we are already in Acumatica, I thought it would be interesting to maybe explore generic inquiries. If you're not familiar with them, essentially in Acumatica, it's a tool that allows you to pull data from the database in Acumatica and display it in a customizable form. More commonly, it's used for reports, dashboards, that sort of thing. This is pretty useful and a lot of people use it. So I'm going to show you an easy way you can take it to Excel. Let's go on our accounts payables over here, bills and adjustments. If you just simply need your static data, you can just click on our logo. Essentially, it's going to download an Excel sheet and you can just open it. But I think it's more interesting to have it dynamic. So I'm going to go over here on Edit Generic Inquiry, and all I'm doing over here is that I just need to copy the inquiry title, but if you know it by heart, you don't need to copy it, so I don't forget about it. And then I'm going to go on an empty sheet, paste it over here, just so we don't forget what it is. And then I'm going to use a similar formula that we used earlier for the trial balance, except in that case, it will be equal GI for generic inquiry. And then, of course, follow the instructions. Let's just give it a second. It's a pretty big GI. But what's really nice is that you can also filter it. So maybe this GI is a little bit too big. I just want a couple of columns. Let's say I want my vendors, I want their status, and I just want currency. I can filter it as such, but I can even get more granular than that and actually define a GI filter. So let's put it over here on A4. This is what I will show you in the highlighted section. I'm just going to define a few parameters first. So vendor in transit and status as open. I'm just choosing 2 for simplicity. You can choose as many as you want. Equal GI filter, and very similarly, just put our connection name, which is demo. And then over here we have AP bills and adjustments, and of course, our parameters. Now that we have set up a filter, we can just insert it over here in the space I left in the beginning. Hit enter, and there we have it. Now we can toggle back and forth between different status. Let's say between open, between closed, and every single time I do it, there's that very famous green circle that's going to pop in, ensuring everything is the most accurate and the most up to date. Now that we kind of explored GIs, I think it would be really interesting to just take a look at how Velixo can be used in ways that are a little bit different than financials. So some of our other templates, let me show you how it is at the moment. But when I click on download report templates, you'll notice they're similarly to the ones I just opened, like the trial balance, cash flow statement, P&L, you name it. Of course, the ones for the demo are over here, or even just samples folder. And you can get more details over here. And I am not logged in onto anything. That's just to show you that this is public information, and you're free to go and download them and use them. Now that I've mentioned that, I'll open one that I have downloaded personally from our website, which is more for projects. But over here, you'll notice we have our dashboard. This is just high-level metrics for project. We'll filter with status, project director, the start date over here. And then you'll see here we have a breakdown of cost and gross profit over time. Of course, we can take a look at some of the portfolio. If you notice clearly over here, you'll see that in the formula GI was used. So this is one of the cases where GIs have been used in conjunction with Excel formulas. So Velixo does not remove any of the Excel functionalities that you have. We actually work hand in hand, and you can leverage both to make your reporting just that much easier and that much smarter. We also have our invoices, of course. So this is also one of the cases where Velixo's GI function was used over here to bring in the project codes, the name, the status information. And here we have a bit more information on AR aging. Also, we used, I believe, another GI function over here. We have our project reports. So you can put, let's say, your project ID over here in yellow, compare overall billing versus cost. Or maybe here you have your cost codes. You want to compare budget to the total cost. This is something that you can do. The very famous SWIP, this is very famous more in construction, but just to take a look at under over billings, and everything is in sync with Acumatica. So you can just click on refresh over here if you are in doubt, or just let the formula run again. Of course, cost over time and a little bit of project forecast. Another example, and this is a bit more specific, actually it's very specific to construction, but I just think it's a nice way to show you the different usage where you can use Velixo. But in this example, let's say it's a tiling company and we have here a project. We're working on a kitchen, a hallway, and a bathroom, which is written right over here. Where Velixo can help you is that it's bringing you the price from the price list in Acumatica directly. So it's always the most up to date. This is the first case where Velixo can help you. So once you've calculated over here the area, which is pretty straightforward calculation, of course you chose the tile, let's say, and the grout. You'll notice that the price will just be calculated right away. And it's taking that information from the materials tab, which is just, again, you guessed it, coming directly from Acumatica with the GI, bringing you the most accurate price. Pretty interesting way of using Velixo. You can also, of course, do a job estimate, send it to one of your clients, and if they approve, you can even write back some data back to Acumatica. I believe over here, all the way to the right, oh, maybe not on this example, but you can add a column just to have a write back function that's going to write back any of the data that you need it to. Of course, you can also use distribution lists where you can send it to your client, let's say, or you need to save one of the copies onto your archives, or you need to save a job estimate onto your folder. This is pretty interesting to use as well. Again, just to remind you where we can find everything is going to be right here in our help section in the download report templates. And you are more than welcome to use any of the other resources for support. If you need to submit an idea or community forums, we're always more than happy to hear what you have to say.